You can be the reliable one for years and still feel secretly exhausted. The late-night fixes, the last-minute saves, the quiet pride of being the person who makes it work, they add up. And one day, it stops feeling noble. It just feels heavy. If that sounds like you, you're not broken. You just learn to live at the end of the stream, where all the problems flow after they've already begun. Most of us did. We were rewarded for reaction, not prevention, for stamina, not systems. But if you stay with me till the end of this video, I'll show you a way to change that rhythm, a way to stop solving the same problem twice. You'll learn how to walk upstream, quietly and clearly, and find the real source of the mess, so you can fix it once and finally rest. Before we start, pause for one breath. Write something small, not for the algorithm, not for me, but for your own clarity. Write, I choose upstream over urgency. It's not a slogan, it's a reminder that peace begins where prevention lives. Because the truth is, most burnout isn't from overwork. It's from living too long at the mouth of the river. For most of my life, I thought I was good at solving problems. If something broke, I fixed it. If someone was late, I reminded them. If something went wrong, I jumped in, rolled up my sleeves, and cleaned up the mess. It felt noble, responsible, even admirable. Like I was the reliable one, the person everyone could count on when things fell apart. But there's a quiet cost to always living downstream. You spend your days surrounded by yesterday's debris, patching leaks, putting out fires, cleaning up after chaos. And after a while, you start mistaking firefighting for leadership. Then one day, I met a problem that refused to stay fixed. And that day changed how I see everything. It happened years ago when I was helping a small retail chain. Every few weeks, they faced the same issue: cashiers applying the wrong discount during sales. Every time, the manager would call a meeting, scold the staff, and order more training. But the same mistakes came back again and again. Different people, same confusion. I remember one young cashier nearly in tears as the manager told her, "We've gone over this a dozen times." That evening, I sat with the manager, going through the reports. He sighed. People just don't pay attention. But something about that didn't sit right with me. I'd seen too many good people blamed for bad systems. So I walked to the counter and took a closer look. The sale tags were a mess. 2 fonts, 3 colors, and fine print that even my glasses couldn't rescue. The register didn't help either. It showed a cryptic discount code that no one understood. The mistake wasn't downstream with the cashiers. It was upstream in the design of the system itself. We made a few small changes. 1 color, 1 rule, 1 bold line. Buy 2, get 1 free, auto-applied at checkout. Then we added a little pop-up on the register that said, "Confirm offer before scanning." That single upstream change cut errors by 90%. No extra training, no new rules, just clarity at the source. And that night, it hit me. Most of what we call people problems are really system problems wearing human faces. After that, I started seeing the same pattern everywhere, even at home. Every Wednesday morning felt like a small disaster. Shoes missing, backpacks unzipped, cereal spilled. The same chaos on repeat. And as usual, I found myself scolding my son. "You're running late again." It became our weekly ritual, frustration served with breakfast. But one morning, mid-sentence, I stopped. I asked myself, where does this chaos actually begin? It didn't start with him forgetting his shoes. It started the night before, when we left everything for the morning rush. We were living downstream again, reacting instead of preparing. So that night, we made a small experiment. We created a ready corner, what we called our launch pad. Every Tuesday evening, we laid out his school clothes, packed the backpack, and set the lunchbox by the door. The next morning was calm. No rushing, no yelling, no tears. He even had time to joke with me before leaving. That morning felt like magic. But it wasn't magic. It was prevention. The fire had never been in the morning. It had been quietly burning upstream all along. Once I saw it there, I couldn't unsee it. The same principle applied to everything: work, family, life. Most of the problems we wrestle with don't live in the moment we notice them. They live earlier, at the source. That realization became a quiet turning point for me, a new way of looking at frustration. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this now?" I started asking, "Where did this really begin?" And that question changed everything. I saw the same lesson play out again, this time in a product team I was consulting for. They were sharp. Designers, engineers, marketers, talented people who cared deeply about their work. But every single release came in late. Every sprint ended in frustration. And every bug report began with the same sentence. The brief was unclear. Their solution? More meetings, more reviews, more late nights fixing mistakes that should never have happened. They were working harder and harder downstream, mopping up the same spills over and over again. So I asked them, what if the real problem isn't in testing, but in how the work enters the stream? We traced the issue back to the beginning. Every project started with a different brief. Different formats, missing details, no clear goal. No one was rowing in the same direction because no one knew what done meant. So we made a single upstream change, one shared template used for every project. And right there, in bold letters, we added one new field: definition of done. 3 words. But those 3 words changed everything. Now, before anyone started working, the team had to agree on what success looked like, what done actually meant, not in theory, but in specifics. Within a few weeks, deadlines tightened. Frustration faded. People started finishing work instead of endlessly redoing it. They hadn't gotten faster, they'd gotten clearer. They weren't fixing problems anymore, they were preventing them. And that was the moment I realized something every true leader eventually learns. The difference between good leadership and great leadership isn't in how fast you put out fires. It's in how far upstream you're willing to walk to stop them from starting. It's easier to stand at the riverbank, pulling people and projects out of the water. You look busy. You look heroic. And for a while, it feels good, like you're saving the day. But true wisdom lives further up the river. It's found in the quiet decision to walk upstream, to ask why people keep falling in, That walk isn't glamorous, it's uncomfortable. Because walking upstream means questioning systems, not people. It means looking past the noise and asking the harder questions. Where does this really begin? What tiny steps started this avalanche? What if we changed the input, not the output? Most of the time, the answers are surprisingly small. A missing checkbox, a vague message, an unclear rule. Tiny details that live far from the spotlight but shape everything downstream. I once worked with a logistics team that kept missing shipment deadlines. They blamed traffic, drivers, schedules, everything under the sun. But when we traced it back, the real cause was almost laughably simple. Orders were being entered in mixed date formats. Some used MM/DD, others DD/MM. Half their delays came from that single inconsistency. We standardized the input form. One field, one format, one rule. Delays dropped overnight. That's what an upstream fix looks like. It's not a bandage, it's a redesign of the wound. And once you see how powerful that is, you can't go back to living downstream. Because every river carries what its source allows. I started thinking of it this way. If a faucet keeps leaking, you don't mop faster, you fix the valve. If a garden keeps flooding, you don't dig deeper trenches, you move the hose. If a conversation keeps ending in misunderstanding, you don't talk louder. You start earlier, with clearer words. Every river carries what its source allows. For years, I believed that reacting quickly was strength, that speed was the mark of a good leader, the one who could step in, fix things, and move on before anyone else noticed the smoke. But now I see it differently. Real strength isn't in reaction, it's in design. It's not about being fast, it's about being wise. I once heard a factory foreman say something that stuck with me. He smiled and said, "We used to have 1,000 problems. Now we only have 10, but they're the right 10. That's what walking upstream does. It doesn't eliminate every challenge, it refines them. You trade noise for clarity, chaos for calm. You stop living in crisis mode and start living in creation mode. That's the quiet reward of prevention. Fewer fires, deeper peace. No applause, no spotlight, just a smooth, steady hum of things going right. And that peace, that calm river, becomes its own kind of success. These days, when something goes wrong, I resist the urge to jump in right away. I take a breath, and I ask one simple question. Where did this begin? If my team misses a deadline, was it really because of time, or because the task wasn't clear from the start? If someone forgets a step, was it truly forgetfulness or a missing checklist? If my family runs late, is it laziness or a morning with too many moving parts? 9 times out of 10, the answer isn't in the fire, it's in the spark. That small shift from reaction to prevention feels like moving from chaos to clarity. And the tool that makes it possible isn't strategy or technology, it's curiosity. Curiosity says, I wonder why this keeps happening. Blame says, who messed up again? One builds systems, the other burns bridges. I once asked a group of managers, if you could eliminate one recurring problem from your week, what would it be? They laughed, then groaned. Emails, delays, miscommunication, rework. I said, now, for each one, ask yourself, where's the earliest moment you can see it starting? The room fell silent, because suddenly they could all see it. Every issue had an early signal, a small warning light they'd been ignoring. And once they started acting on those signals, everything shifted. They didn't just save time, they saved patience, trust, and energy, the invisible currencies of good work. That's the quiet magic of walking upstream. You don't just solve problems faster, you prevent them from existing at all. The same truth shows up in our relationships too. If the same argument keeps returning again and again, the cause isn't in the shouting. It's somewhere further upstream, maybe in an unspoken expectation, maybe in poor timing, maybe in the tiny rituals of daily life that no one ever paused to redesign. I remember hearing a couple talk about this once. The husband said, "I'm tired of always apologizing for being late." And his wife replied gently, "Then let's fix what makes you late." So they did. They moved their alarm 15 minutes earlier. They placed their keys in one bowl by the door every night. And the fights stopped. Not because they learned to argue better, but because they walked upstream together. That's the quiet beauty of prevention. It doesn't make you a hero. It makes you peaceful. No one gives you credit for the fires that never happen. There's no applause for calm mornings or smooth meetings. But peace has its own kind of applause. It's the sound of silence where noise used to be. It's the steady heartbeat of things that simply work. When the fires stop, not because you ran faster, but because the forest stopped igniting, that's wisdom. That's leadership. And once you feel that kind of peace, you'll never want to trade it for the drama of fixing what you could have prevented. Here's a simple practice I use whenever a problem keeps coming back. You might try it yourself. It's quiet, humble, but surprisingly powerful. Step 1. List 3 repeating problems. Think back over the last month. What keeps showing up? The same delay, the same argument, the same frustration? Write them down. No judgment, no story, just the patterns. Step 2. Find the earliest visible point. Ask yourself, where's the first moment this problem becomes visible? Not the explosion, the spark. Maybe it's an unclear form, a missing reminder, a vague message, a cluttered calendar. That's the moment that needs your attention. Step 3. Make one small change upstream. Don't rebuild the whole system, just tweak the source. Add a checklist, simplify a process, clarify a boundary. Create one gentle trigger that changes the flow before it reaches crisis. Then, let it run for a week. Watch how many downstream fires never even start. That's the beauty of upstream thinking. It's patient. It doesn't demand perfection. It just asks, what if I could prevent this instead of repairing it? Every great improvement in history began with that question. Public health, engineering, education, even kindness. Because kindness, too, starts upstream, in the way we plan, speak, and listen. When you care enough to fix things before they break, you don't just save time. You save energy. You save trust. You save hearts. A few months ago, I visited that same retail store where all this began. The sale signs were clean, simple, bright. The cashier smiled more. The manager laughed and said, "We barely hold training sessions anymore. Everything just works." That's the magic of upstream fixes. They're quiet. No drama, no applause, just the calm hum of things going right. We live in a world that celebrates the firefighter, the hero who rushes into the burning building. But maybe the truest heroes are the ones who build the kind of houses that don't catch fire in the first place. So next time you find yourself tired, solving the same mess again, pause for a moment. Look upstream. Ask gently, where does this really begin? Because most rivers of frustration start as tiny trickles. A missing structure, an unclear design, an unspoken agreement. Change the source, and you change the story. We can't stop every storm, but we can build stronger roofs. We can't control every current, but we can shape better channels. And maybe, just maybe, life isn't about becoming faster at solving problems, but wiser at preventing them. Tomorrow may never come, but today is here, calm, clear, and waiting for you to walk upstream.